I am here in Madrid and I'm standing in front of the recently completed project in Fuente del Fresno. I'm with our clients, Simon Maudsley and Naiara Vegara.
Yes.
And hopefully they're going to tell us a little bit about the story of the project and what they like and don't like. The situation is slightly unusual because Naiara is herself an architect. Okay, so I'm sure she'll tell us a little bit more about that later, but she is responsible for the fabulous design and the ergonomic, and we're going to talk about all that in a minute. But just before we get started on all that, could you, Simon, first of all, perhaps, and then Naiara, could you tell me a little bit about who you are and why you decided to build the house?
Okay, hello, Simon. I spent 20 years living and working in London in finance and technology. I set up my own travel business, and that allowed me to move to Madrid with my wife, Naiara, who is Spanish. We moved here about 5 years ago, and when looking around at the options available in this area, we sort of had two choices. We could do a fixer-upper, or there were a number of parcels of land available. We found one that was the right size, the right price, and thought it was just the perfect opportunity for Naiara to build her first project that was actually her own. And the fact that Naira's parents and our children's grandparents are just up the road meant that Fuente del Fresno was perfect for that reason as well.
Yes.
Okay. Naiara.
Yeah, I mean, I think he explained very well that we came to Spain after being in London. So I think a lot of the design decisions that we were looking for in the house come from living in a very, in an opposite environment, in a very urban environment,
Yes.
non-light. And it resulted us with wanting just space and light as the main essence of our project. That really was like the backbone of the house design. But yeah, for me, it was an opportunity as well to create my own design instead of actually going and refurbishing a house that we found in the market. So this was a very special project. So we actually bought the plot and came back. We came from London to Spain. And I think in terms of the design, I think one of the main issues is always like that. How do you balance the constraints that the plot of land has versus like wanting to add maybe some experiential or some singularities within the design. So that is the greatest challenge of every design. And later on, I can explain more details once we go through the house.
What's your favorite feature or aspect of the property now that you're living in it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have two favorite moments. One is in the exterior, which actually it is for me the tiles, the Pumela tiles. That for me it's an element that adds uniqueness and also it gives personality to the project and is inspired by the site. We are in a place that doesn't have anything around it by nature, so actually the pattern is designed on the pine of a tree on the fruit pine. And actually, I think it's a moment where I could do something more bespoke for the house. And then in the interior, you will see later, but it's pretty much the stairs that is a void space that connects all of the rooms of the house. The design tries to avoid corridors in order to have an open flow and very sort of like compact also distribution of the rooms.
Thank you. I remember the lack of corridors as being Simon, what's your favorite aspect of the house?
Oh, I'm going to go with the ceiling heights.
Yes, of course.
Of course. So two things. Here in Fuente del Fresno, we have a restriction on height, which I believe is either 8 meters or 8.5 meters. A lot of our neighbors have 3-story buildings where they've either compromised on the ground floor ceiling height to give them a 3rd story, or they've sunken down the ground floor to double as a garage or a gym or what have you. I was pretty confident that 3 floors, just the extra spend wasn't warranted. So how do we make the most of the budget, the constraints, and therefore the property? So on the ground floor, we have, I think it's 3.7 meters ceiling height. Everyone told me it would be a terrible idea. Everyone told me it would be totally out of proportion, but you walk in and it's absolutely fantastic. And it's one of the first things everybody notices. And of course, being tall, it's, just great not to be worrying about banging my head on every door frame or whatever it might be. So definitely ceiling heights.
I agree. And I think it gives a fantastic sense of space, a luxurious sense of space within the house. And that with the flow, the way the spaces work together and the natural light, I think it's really a superb project. So congratulations to both of you on doing it. Let me ask you, would you do it all again?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
But we have you to thank for that.
Yeah.
So do you remember, Simon, a few months ago, in fact, you said something which I latched onto. Can you you remember about
You gotta-
Eco Vida Homes? Do you remember something? It was months ago, actually. I
You
think
m-
we were halfway through. No, it was the beginning of the project.
You may have to remind me, but I can give you the compliment now.
Go on.
if it's good time. So, funny enough, I've done a number of reforms, as they call it in Spain, in London. I've done some townhouses. I've done some, flat refurb. The idea of, so negotiating contracts, putting big complicated spreadsheets together, super comfortable with those things. But the fact that here in Spain, I'd have to do all that on a project that was 20 times more complicated than anything I'd done before, dealing in a language that I'm not especially comfortable with. And in hindsight, looking at the models that the technical architect actually put together for, in hindsight, it would have been just hiding to nothing. It would have been absolutely impossible for me to do, irrespective of the relative expertise that I have. So having you available on hand, basically to cover my back, to make sure that we weren't being ripped off, that the right work was being done by the right people at the right time, was invaluable. And I also remember the tender process. I think we had 4 or 5 companies come to tender, and there was one that you had mentioned that you were keen to work with. But when the tender process came through, I think you actually said that you'd heard something on the grapevine that would suggest that perhaps we go with a fractionally more expensive, but a main contractor with a long track record with yourself, and whose reputation was fantastic. So having all of those things just gives me the ability to sleep at night. And I think that, obviously you can put a price on it, but it's money well spent.
I think the words you used were, John, you're my stress umbrella.
Yeah.
I do remember it now.
Thank you. And I thank you so much for saying that as well. And I thought, God, if only our prospective clients could
Understand.
hear that.
Yeah.
Okay, so shall we take a
Yes.
walk around the house?
Yes.